Well, Andy, thank you so much for being our first Silkmen Storyboard profile.
No problem, mate.
Let's go all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah.
How did your love affair with football and the Silkmen in particular first start?
Probably way back in the 60s with my granddad and my dad. I think my first ever game, I think my granddad told me, I remember very little about it, was when we played Wigan Athletic. It might have been in the Northern Premier League, the old Cheshire League. I remember very little about that. Probably one of my earliest memories of being a Silkman and getting the bug was around the time of the 1970 FA Trophy final.
Would you say that was the time, like in your way, you got the bug, and was it kind of like an instant thing, or it was something which kind of like grew over time?
No, I think it was there. I think my dad was also my granddad was Mac through and through. Where my dad, he also had a love affair with Manchester United as well, and he'd been through United and Mac, and he used to sort of vary that when he's working. There was also the fact that he always still says that Duncan Edwards was the greatest player he ever watched, alongside Georgie Best and stuff like that. But my granddad wasn't interested in that. My granddad was only interested in all things Mac, and obviously that stuck with me. And you know, the fact also that I lived a stone's throw from the ground on Parkgate Road as when I was very young. Also, I could hear the roar of the crowd, you know, on match days and stuff like that, and I just felt right to become a part of the Silkmen family, really.
I suppose in them early days when we all first start going, you're not really that technically minded in terms of the football itself.
Yeah.
Can you remember kind of like the impression you got when you first walked in to the Moss Road with the crowd and the players?
Yeah, I remember the rattles. Obviously, because I mean, obviously, we are talking late 60s. I remember the rattles. I remember everybody. Of course, they didn't have replica shirts then. Everybody had the scarves. All the old fellas had the hats, and I can remember then. Obviously, there was no smoking. It wasn't no smoking then. You could smoke away. And I remember being in the old shed end with my granddad, and they'd have us sat at the front, and all the fellas would have their flat caps and smoking the woodbines and all that, and talking the talk. And I just remember the buzz. Probably the biggest buzz I had, probably initially, was when we went to Wembley, because I still have I was only 5 or 6, but still this memory of the amount of cars and, you know, and scarves and banners going down to London on that first ever sort of trophy, and it sticks with me. I also remember the homecoming and the crowds that filled the streets as they came down. Obviously, they came down London Road right to the town hall and stuff like that. And I can remember getting sort of tingles down my spine watching it and thinking, wow, you know what I mean? I couldn't get over the amount of people that travelled to Wembley, and also that were there when they came to parade the trophy back in March.
One of the things we all have, let's be honest, as kids, especially with football, is heroes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who were your first Silkmen heroes?
My first Silkmen hero probably was Brian Fiddler, you know, because obviously he was part of that, and he was a bit of a character as well. And then as time went on, I developed other heroes. You know, I mean, do you want me to talk about other heroes that I've had through the 80s and 90s?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Obviously, Stevie Bray was one of my first Silkmen heroes. I still remember that brilliant hat trick against Rotherham. John Askey, obviously Gentleman John. I always laugh when they called him Gentleman John, because he was probably the dirtiest player I ever saw. He could do a good foul and then he'd walk away, and he had such an innocent face. He used to get away with murder with it. Danny Witt, I love Danny Witt. Probably somebody that probably most recently I had a real affection for in terms of like his football and his passion and what a nice kid he was, with James Berry.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, I think lovely lad, great family, and I still remember. I think it was the season we won. We'd just won the league, and we were all in the bar, and of course James had just had a great game like he often did. But I looked, I thought, where's James? Looked out, and he'd gone out with loads of kids onto the pitch, and his love of football was that great. The kids were taking, you know, penalties at him, and I just thought, wow, that's what football is all about. That's why I'm so proud to be a Mac fan, because would you ever get that at Manchester City? Would you ever get that at Manchester United or any of the Premier League club? No. And again, it shows what a community club we are and continue to be, really.
So we've talked about your playing heroes.
Yeah.
But how did football, and Macclesfield Town in particular, help you to nurture a very special relationship with both your dad and your granddad?
It was, and it's not just with dad and granddad. It's also with my son Sean. With my dad and my granddad, we had something that we locked into. My granddad probably slightly more the football because my dad was, but with my dad it was football and cricket because I'm a big, my dad was quite a good cricketer. I wasn't a bad cricketer, not great but not bad, and we got that sort of like love of sport and attending sport. So obviously often with my dad I go to Old Trafford Cricket Ground more, but with my granddad from an early age, with my granddad, because my dad used to work more, we go to the mosque, and I always remember the feeling I get is you're finishing school, right, footy's on this Saturday, can't wait, we've got whoever we've got, and I just loved the buzz.
You've been through some amazing times with
Yeah.
Macclesfield Town, now in Macclesfield FC, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Some less good times as well.
Some less good times,
But when you look back, I think you've alluded to it already, was your first major moment, if you like, that 1970 FA Trophy final?
Definitely. And I go back and I say it was the fact that a lot of these were ordinary guys, and we were the first ever winners of the FA Trophy, and at the time we were probably the greatest non-league side in the country. A couple of years before, now I still remember my granddad and my dad talking about it. They talked about the defeat by Fulham in the 1968 FA Cup third round. And they, all the time, I always remember my dad and my granddad would say, we was robbed. And you only have to watch the highlights of that game to realise we had 2 Stonewall penalties turned down. And this was against the Fulham side that had Bobby Robson as the new manager. It had people like Alan Clark and Johnny Haynes, and we played him off the park for large parts of the game. And I can remember that and the pride that they had in their local team, and the pride that they had when we were the first team to come back. Them lads coming in there, ordinary lads, they had ordinary jobs, but they'd created history and Silkmen folklore, and it just made you feel so proud to be a Silkman.
And then, of course, came the Peter
Raggy, God love him,
era. Now, I know that season we achieved so much under Peter Ragg, and we'll come to that in a minute.
Yeah.
But I know in terms of the 1987 treble winning side, it's a memorable one.
It was.
For you on a number of different levels, both in terms of the football club and in terms of with Geraldine as well, your wife.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, Geraldine, my wife, at the time we hadn't been going out very long. We were both nurses, and when we won Geraldine would say to me on a Saturday, when I started seeing her, it was close season. I started seeing her in May, I think. So I'd never really given her an idea about how much football meant to me, and what Mac meant to me. So we had a situation whereby she'd regularly say to me, "Hey, up hand, should we go and do some shopping on Saturday, or should we go Manchester?" And I go, "Can't love, I'm working." Or like, they put me on this really bad shift. And she used to say, "You won't have a go at them on that ward," because we were on different wards, because it's crap in the way they train. I'm like, "No, it's terrible, isn't it?" And then we were playing Hyde, the game that secured our sort of promotion into the conference, national as it is now, the Vauxhall Conference as it was then. And I said to her, "Do you fancy coming to Manchester?" And she went, "Yeah, I do." I said, "I tell you what, I just need to go to Hyde first." And she went, "Oh, all right then." So we drove to Hyde, then we parked up, and of course that we'd parked up, and she was like hordes of Mac fans going, and she looked at me and they were going, all right, and how are you doing? All right. And she was like, "You know a lot of people around here, don't you?" And "Yeah, just a few." And of course we got there into the ground, and then sort of like everyone was saying, "Great game last week." And she said, "You were working last week." And all of a sudden, and what she remembers very well is when Stevie Bear scored his first goal, bear in mind I'd not been going out with her that long, I jumped up in the air and knocked her out in the jaw and nearly knocked her out. And she never forgets that. She also never forgets she says Sean went to his first ever game, against Kidderminster Harriers. Not that he was born by then, but she was about 7 months pregnant with Sean, or 8 months pregnant. And she remembers him kicking when we cheered when we scored. Yeah.
That brings us nicely on to the next era, if you like. Those wonderful years under Sammy McElroy.
Yeah.
When you look back, just how magical were they?
Magical. There's no words to describe what Sammy did, and Gil, of course, God love him. when you consider all the history that was going on at the time in the background and stuff like that, to take that team, and let's face it, we didn't have a big budget in comparison to a lot of teams of that day, to take that team, to mould them into a championship winning side that took us to the, let's face it, for us it was a promised land. In my lifetime, I never thought that I would ever see Mac win the league or ever get into the Football League, but we did, and it was a truly memorable era. Also, as well, was great was because Sean was 8 or 9 at the time, so he was just getting into football, and so that was fabulous for him. And of course, he became part of that journey with me, you know. And as I had with my dad and my granddad, Sean became part of that almost Silkmen family alongside me. So his love of the Silkmen grew through that period as well.
I'm sure you can read my questions here because that was my next one. And,
oh, right.
Yeah, it was kind of like, how important was it to you replicating that passion that your dad and your granddad passed on to you, for you to then pass that down?
Oh, 100%, 100%. It means the world to me how proud he is to be a Silkman. My first memories of taking Sean, I think we went to a pre-season friendly, and I remember him. We'd been a bit 2 or 3, and I put him on my shoulders. It was and I'd taken him to McDonald's, and he couldn't eat when the people are going, "Come on, Silkman." He thought he was only left him saying Milkman. Come on, Milkman. And of course, I'd just bought him, before we gone to the game, I bought him a milkshake. So when we said, "Come on, Milkman," he goes, "I've got milk, Daddy." And he poured it all over my head. So it was a boiling hot sort of like July day, and it all went down and it sort of stuck all over me. And it took me about 3 days to shower.
I'm sure he'll be really happy that you told us that, to be fair.
Well, he does. I don't think he can remember it, but a lot of people did. But yeah,
we'll remind him going
forward.
Yeah,
you remind him going forward. Yeah.
So it's just shortly after that that you put yourself forward for the role of PA.
I sort of didn't put myself forward. What it was,
well, that was the thing. Yeah. How did it all come about?
Yeah, what it was, I mean, probably in my opinion, my humble opinion, probably the most professional and skilled PA ever was the one only Dave Westbury. Dave was magical in his role as a PA. He had a very calming, professional aura about him. And of course, when Dave decided to step down, I think they sort of were like desperate. Jeff Finlow, Jeff Finlow said to me at the time, he went, "Andy, you've got a big gob. Why don't you give it a bit of a go?" And I'm like, I'm not technical at all. I had no idea what I was doing. He just said, "Just do it." And I can remember I wasn't fearful of talking, but I thought I'll never be able to emulate Dave in terms of his style and stuff like that. So I sort of thought, I'm going to speak just as I talk on the terraces without some of the swear words. And I talked as a fan and I speak as a fan, and that is why for me it's so important whenever I do the PA, whether or not these 600 or 600 away fans, I always thank them, because for them to take the time and the effort to do so, I think it's really, really important. It took me a while when I first started doing the PA. It was quite a challenge. I built my own style. Somebody, I don't know if you, what was it called, on the old Silk Web, said I reminded them of a cheeky chappy like Arthur Askey, because they had that like very cheeky chappy way of sort of talking. Whereas the legend Steve Mundy as well, I don't know if you remember Alvar Liddell, the famous commentator from the Second World War, "Here is the news." Whereas I was like, "Hey up guys, welcome to Titmoss Rose." And I think that's where I thought, I'm just going to be me. I'm going to talk as a fan and try and make people as welcome as they can, because that's one of the most important things you do. When people come, I want people to feel welcome and for them to feel this is a very important part of the community of Macclesfield.
And obviously, kind of like best part of 25 years later,
yeah,
you're still with us in that role.
Yeah.
What do you put that longevity down to?
Look. But I know you joked with on a few occasions. On a couple of occasions, I have, I've thought enough was enough, and I've stood down only to realise I miss it so much, and I've gone back. I speak with my heart. I speak, and my heart the passion I have for the Silkmen, and I put that passion into it. And I don't want that passion to be lost. I want people to feel welcome. I want them to feel the passion that I feel for this football club. Whether or not you come as an away fan, you're welcome. Whether you come as a home fan, you're welcome. And we build that community together, really.
And obviously one of the last major memories that we all experienced under Macclesfield Town was in 2018. Sir John led us to the National League title.
Indeed. Again, I equate, just to pop in there, I equate Sir John's achievements with that team to more than Leicester City when they won the Premier League, because as you know, we're going up with a tenner in the bank. We literally, I think that season, you remember, I don't think we had any players on our books with several weeks before the start of the season.
That's right. David Fitzpatrick, that was it.
David Fitzpatrick, I think was it. And yet John moulded a team, and it was a team that led us against all odds. We did against all odds into Football League. I think that was an incredible achievement as well. Probably just as incredible because we really did it with absolutely nothing. And as I said, I always used to equate it to being better than the Leicester City winning the Premier League the year before.
And we had so many laughs that season.
We did.
Both home and away.
We did.
Didn't we?
We did.
One question I've always wanted to ask you. To did you ever find that red Mercedes? Or
no. Interestedly, Bobby. No. That's probably a faux pas that will live long in the memory.
Could we have the toned down version of that one?
Yeah. I think you planned it with the young Will.
It was nothing.
It was nothing to do with Bob. Of course, it was to do with Bob. Look at the camera. It was to do with Bob. Yeah, it was. It was. Sean was on it as well. Marie was in on it, and I'd gone into the crowd with him playing Wrexham. So we were on BT Sport. It was that famous snowy day we had where the game nearly got abandoned. I'd gone into the crowd to get the crowd going, and then Sean came, Dad, you've got to read up this announcement. So off, where is it? So what I did was I got hold of the announcement, and it was a red Mercedes that was parked in the wrong place. And I said, would the owner of a red Mercedes registration, and that was said not once but 4 times. And I believe I turned around and I saw everybody around me crying with laughter, and I couldn't work out why they were laughing at me. And then all of a sudden it clicked. John Askey and all the backroom staff in there were peeing themselves as well. And I even got called into the office where I received a bit of a frolicking. So that's probably going to be edited, is it, Bob?
I might have to bleep a little bit of that out, mate, which I didn't expect from you. You know, you let yourself down.
Well, I said DJ though, didn't I?
Well, yeah, that was probably going to be another bleep.
Yeah.
I guess that those memories, though, joking apart, from that season, were made all the more poignant, all the more memorable, all the more evocative because of what happened just 2 years later when Macclesfield Town were liquidated in the High Court. Just how much did that affect you on a personal level?
Massively. It affected, and I know it affected a lot of people's mental health as well. Of
course, yeah.
You know, we felt betrayed. We felt betrayed by the owner at the time. We felt betrayed by the Football League, because a number of us, the Supporters Trust, of which at the time I was the chair, we'd met with the Football League officials on a number of occasions. And of course, Bray hadn't long since lost their sort of like identity for their fantastic community club that they were, and we were assured that it would never happen again. We were said no. We completely understand. We went down. We highlighted our concerns. We went down, and yet we felt, and I feel to this day, and I know many feel the same way, that very little was done to save Macclesfield Town and save a real community club. And it was heartbreaking. I remember seeing people in tears. I'd see people in town that would just absolutely go, what are we going to do on a Saturday? People would joke, oh my God, that means I'm going to have to go shopping with the missus on a Saturday and stuff like that. But it was just, you just felt empty. You felt empty inside, like you'd lost. You feel like lost part of your soul, part of your spirit, part of you had gone in that instant. Really,
I know it's going to sound a little bit weird, and I think people who haven't gone through that might struggle to understand it. But to what extent, at that time, did all the brilliant memories, which we've talked about, the Sammy days, the trophy days, Raggy, Sir John, to what extent for a period there were those memories tainted because we knew the end point, if you know what I mean, just for a few weeks, if you know what I mean?
I never felt, I've got to be honest, I never felt my memories were tainted. I think in some respects, I think because I've had so many great memories of following my hometown club, it got me. I got out some of the old Against All Odds, and I would flick through that. I'd look through old videos, and I'd be watching stuff like that. It actually almost intensified my love of the Silkmen as opposed to tainted it, really.
Yeah. No. I mean, like, I suppose I'm coming at it from my point of view. It was kind of like, if you watch a film, if you read a book or whatever, and the end of the story is a sad one, does that impact on how you see the story as a whole? And it shouldn't. I
didn't really feel that way. Yeah. I have to say I didn't really feel that way. I never.
Well, that's good, isn't it?
I mean, it was, and what I found is I would bore Jolene silly, because I'd try and get like books and stuff like that. I get books out and I say, and photos. Do you remember that when we were at Wembley in '96? And Sean and I would watch, stuff on YouTube and some of the old, look through some archives and look and think, wow, this is an incredible history. Where's it gone? And I even started thinking, what we're doing on Saturday, I thought I'll have to have a team to go and watch. It wouldn't have the same. So I was even thinking about, I don't want to go and watch a big Premier League side. I was thinking about even going to like Congleton Town, only because I thought somewhere that's not small, that you felt you could be a part of. I don't think I knew I wouldn't have the same love of them, but I thought it was something to give me, and that's where I was considering going.
It seems quite difficult to believe that that is all now 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And when you see what's happening with the likes of Sheffield Wednesday, with the likes of Morecambe now, how lucky were we that after being liquidated on the 16th of September, pretty much a month, it wasn't long, was it, 3 or 4 weeks later, we were almost rejuvenated by Rob buying the assets on Rightmove. Just how lucky were we? And from your point of view, was your passion, was your buy-in, if you like, instant, or was it something which kind of like grew on you?
It was instant. I've got to be honest. I remember when the information came that Rob had bought the club. I knew that there was issues to do with the fact that with the Moss Rose, potentially as opposed to Bury, we still had a ground that it could be played on. I think Mike Rance had done quite a lot of work and with the FA youth teams and stuff like that, and the football community. So I think that had helped to ensure that the Moss Rose could be used as a facility for football. I have to say, when I first met with Rob, I went as a chair of the trust and we had a chat. His vision, I was like, yeah, right. He had this vision of completely rejuvenated. He said, I think he said originally, I think he said to me, I might be wrong, but it was something to me, originally a couple of million, he said, that he intended to spend. He said, he said, I've had a look round. There's loads of work that he's doing, and I want to have a bar here, possibly a gym. And I remember going, yeah, right. But within weeks, you started to see it. You started, and then the journey of building this incredible new facility that's now the Leasing.com Stadium started to come to vision. I think it's gone up to about 4 million. I think it went to for him in terms of costings, but it was his drive, his ambition is just incredible. It's just been incredible, and we're very lucky to have an owner like Rob. We are really. And what was really nice was, and I noticed it, I don't know if anybody else noticed it, was when I think it was in the first pre-season against Mansfield, Rob was walking across the pitch, and to a man, everybody gave him this huge cheering round of applause. And I could see, I could sort of like and hear I could tell by his interactions how touched and he was, and I think it gave him that passion even more to make this football club what it really deserves to be.
There've been some unbelievable memories over the last 5 years.
There has.
Which mean the most to you on a personal level in terms of telling your story?
In what way, Bob?
In terms of like which ones you look back on and think, yeah, they're the ones I'll remember, you know, forevermore, if you like.
I think all of them. I mean, because it's so fresh, I think I've gone and I cherish every moment now because we'd lost what we had. We've got it back. So I cherish every single moment. I love being on a match day. So every game we go to, win, lose or draw, every, you know, being part of that football family again, continue to be part of that family, to see the club thrive in the way it has. And you know what I absolutely love to see is when I remember being an 18-year-old and I had a Mac scarf on. I was a student nurse, and a doctor said to me, "Oh, who do you support, Chelsea or Everton?" I went, "Neither. I support Mac Town." This was when I was 18, and they went, "They got a football club?" And I went, "They do indeed." And I explained. But what's lovely now is with all the academy stuff and all the stuff going on, you see all the kids in the Mac Replica shirts, the Mac Replica kit. It's really heartwarming because I think, as you do, I think that there's research that shows if you get a child early enough to start supporting a club, they then become fans for life. And with the work that's going on with the academy and stuff like that, which is incredible, and the International Academy, I think we're going to have a new generation of Silkmen fans that are going to be part of, you know, of the future of this club and maintain it, which is fantastic to see.
And just a couple to finish with, mate.
Okay, mate.
Listen, it would be remiss of me not to mention that there have been some sad times in recent years.
There has.
And we need to mention, because I know he's played a massive part in your own story, the legendary Julian Bramwell.
Yeah. I still get quite a gulp from my throat now. Julian was a gentleman who many of us knew, a gentleman with a learning disability and physical disability as well, a larger than life character, who I came through my work within the field of learning disability, where I was a registered nurse and did many roles within that. But I came across Julian. Julian, by chance, they were struggling to get him. He wanted to go to Mark. His family had been a degenerate, and I started taking him, and he became almost like one of the legendary figures of the Macclesfield FC. And I can remember the way that everybody he used to love everybody, go round, he'd go chatting to the kids. Football, I think, was immaterial to him, really. He just loved being part of the community, and everybody to a man loved him. Man, woman and child loved him. He was such a larger-than-life character, and the banter that he had with Robbie Savage. And I have great respect for Robbie for that, in terms of how Robbie almost took him under his wing. And Julian would go up to Robbie and go, "Hey, Robbie, I want to have, can I have his shirt?" So Robbie got him a shirt, he got him scarves, he got him shirts, he got him coats. I think he even came in one day and Robbie gave him a replica of something that he had, which he kept until he passed away. And even now, when I pass Warwick Road, where Julian lives at Warwick Mews, I still get a lump in my throat. I still think I should be picking Duke up now. And you know, I know, and as I said, it was a great tribute that was done from the football club towards Julian, the way that his cortege passed and stuff like past the ground for the flag, the Silkmen flag that Steve Colcutt did a brilliant job with, and also the words that came in the videos, and also from Rob and Robbie and so forth. That meant so much to his family as well. And you know, we always play now the Lighthouse Family, Lifted, because that was his favourite song. So Sean and I have always said every half time we will play Lifted.
And just finally, mate,
yeah,
what do you hope the future holds, both for Andy Worth and for Macclesfield FC?
Well, obviously for Andy Worth to grow old disgracefully, which, you know, will Bobby anyway, and for the club continue to thrive, and to continue to be almost a quintessential part of the local community. And I mean, I have to give a big shout out to the CST as well. What great work they're doing in the local community in association with the Silkmen. Macclesfield FC, and long may it continue.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, mate.
You're welcome, mate. Thank you.